I just realized. Am I too wrinkled?
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
We're all good. We're live.
Good.
This is it. It's happening.
I did one
We're
the
in
other
motion.
day. I did one last week. My first one last week.
And it just dropped yesterday.
I sent you. I think I sent you the link. Yeah, it's
You
on YouTube and all podcasts. It was fun. It was fun. It was weird at first, but it was fun.
What was weird about it?
Just hearing my own voice, and seeing myself. I mean, everybody hates the sound of their own voice. And of course, we're also so critical of ourselves, and how we speak and things we say and,
how we say them. Yeah. You get over it. I promise you do it enough. And you have to listen to yourself. And when you start, if you ever start your own and start producing your own show, you'll get over it. It's a weird thing, but this too shall pass.
Well, I want to start adding. Are we live now? Are we going?
We are live. We're having this conversation. We're live. People are getting on. We're gonna give people a minute. I know, mind blown.
Awesome.
If you're here with us, join in the conversation. Tell us if you find it like nails on a chalkboard when you hear your own voice, or if you too have had to get over it, like us podcasters. Shoot us a note. Tell us what you think. We are here. We are live. This is Back on Track, previously known as Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders. And I am here today with Scott Wasserman. A little bit about Scott before we dive on in. Scott's helped brands like AstraZeneca, Merck, and Roche close multi-million-dollar contracts through data-driven ABM, launched advocacy programs that quadrupled LinkedIn reach, and used AI to streamline workflows without adding headcount. In this episode, we unpack how to transform marketing into a true revenue partner, what modern ABM and dark social really look like in practice, and why leadership in the AI era requires both agility and empathy. Welcome to the show, Scott. Grateful you're here.
Thank you. I do want to clarify something, so it's not from what you said. It's a very nice introduction. However, I came in at the end of the ABM on Zeneca and those different companies. So I can't, by any means, these guys did a phenomenal job. I was happy to be a part of it at the end, and but it was good. Yeah. Just to clarify, in case anybody's listening, it's like, wait, Scott didn't pull all this off.
Scott, stop taking our credit. No, I appreciate the clarification. And Trevor Van Worden, welcome to the show. Appreciate you, Trevor. He also enjoys the sound of his voice and has worked at Merck, his first sales job. So maybe your paths have crossed.
I doubt it, but they're huge, man. Well, they are huge.
If you don't, well, this is a great time if you don't know Trevor to go hang out with him because he's a wonderful, wonderful human.
Cool.
Trevor, thank you.
Nice to meet you, Trevor.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
From, but Boston, if you're a Bostonian.
He's a West Coaster. He's over there in Washington State. So, yeah. Little time zone action, but I'm sure lovely. Thanks to all this tech, we'll figure it out. If you're here with us, be sure to chime in. We love your questions. We saw some popping up before we were even live. People were fired off questions, so we'll be sure to circle back on those. But yeah, Scott, you ready to get after it?
Let's do it.
All right, we're going to start off with a quick game. It's called Scale or Scrap. So I'm going to read 5 modern marketing tactics, and you're going to have 30 seconds for each one to say whether you'd scale it or scrap it completely and why.
Cool.
All right. Cold email sequencing in 2025. Are you scaling it or scrapping it?
Scrap.
Why are you scrapping it?
I've done it for years. I'm not a big believer in cold email, but all the adjustments I've made, I believe emails, especially if they are cold, should be strictly text, very short, just 2 or 3 sentences, just enough to get them to respond, whether it be a positive or a negative response, whether it be, sometimes my answer, I'd write a sentence or two and I'd say, just give me a yay or nay or whatever, if you want to hear back, sometimes I'd hear it. And even if it was a no, it was a they did connect. But, cold emails usually mean cold leads, they really are. And that's not the way I like to go about this. Demand generation is inbound. Demand generation is going to where the clients are. People don't like getting emails, especially unsolicited emails on a regular basis. I know I don't, even no matter how small they are. Of course, back in the day, we all sent those long emails with 15 links and everything else. Those get dumped, and attention span these days are ridiculous, but still they weren't requested. And if they hear your company because you're slamming with them with these cold emails, I don't, for myself, if I hear that name, I'm like, I'm not crazy about them. They keep bombarding me.
All right. Well, drop it in the comments, folks. If you are a fan of cold email, I have some thoughts, but we'll circle back on it, Scott. LinkedIn employee LinkedIn employee advocacy programs. Are you scaling it or scrapping it?
Scaling.
Ooh.
Scaling. Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned about employee advocacy several years ago. It was always marketing and sales were what drove the company. Some, of course, lean towards sales. Some, of course, leads towards marketing. But the reality is entire companies should represent the marketing. The entire company should be going after it. So if you can get, especially from, top level down, C-level down, to buy into the concept of going onto a platform that marketing sets up, that their employees would opt into this. And when they opt into this, let's say we talked about Slack before, I think before we get on, and Teams, they'd be set up for it. We read all the little bit of content, and then they would go ahead and just, I want to, it would pop up and just say, do you want to post this on your page, not the company page, on your page? And of course, now there's a little AI where, you can jumble around what's written. So not everybody's writing the same thing, but it works. I mean, the idea is building a brand. The idea is getting everything out there. And, a lot of people, they see pages, they see a company page as a marketing page. But let's say, okay, let's go back to that cold email a second. Let's say somebody did get a cold email and somebody actually did look at it, and it's from there. And let's say they had 5 seconds. They might say, let me look this person up. If they haven't posted in 10 months, they're going to say, who is this person? But if they are posting on a regular basis about the industry, the business, it really shows them that they know what they're talking about. So that's on the sales end usually, but it also spreads, it goes wide, it goes deep, and it gets the conversation going, because people like to talk to people. People buy from people. They want to buy, they don't want to be sold. And this allows them. And it's not like, one other thing I'm against, and I'll slow it down here because I can go on this forever. It's like a passion. When people buy, what's the typical thing? Call to action at the end. Call to action at the end. No call to action at the end. Just get comments. See, just like we're doing right now. Get their feedback. See what they want to say. Do you have anything you want to say? And that's something that the teams can follow and see, what might be a high intent lead over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I've been hearing a lot more about it. All right, we're gonna keep moving. Dark social attribution tracking.
Yeah.
That seems like
it's something that I guess can be, attribution platforms, attribution settings, for a while, the whole thing was, everything can be automated. Everything can be automated, through paid ads, whatever you're doing. So just as an example, but attribution in the dark social era, meaning, what is dark social? Dark social basically means that people, again, want to look at different areas. They're not just going to your website anymore. They're on podcasts. They're listening to people. They're talking to people. I heard this before, and I mentioned this the other day. It's like being invited to a private party and discussing this with your friends and talking about it and getting ideas and getting input. Now, there's no way to automatically get information about that. There's no way to know if a person is high intent from that. Yet then you can sit there and, let's say, take a podcast, break it up into snippets. And in those snippets, you post it in different places, not just on LinkedIn, but, where are they? They could be on Facebook. They could be on Twitter. They could be on Insta. They could be on TikTok, and putting those out there as well. And again, watching watching the conversation. And in doing so, by the time they get to your website, because, by putting a paid ad, old school paid ad, download that ebook, which really needs to go by the way of the dinosaur, download that ebook, free. And then what was considered to be an MQL turned into, because, you know, senior level would sit there and say, we need more MQLs. So what company, you know, what departments would do is take that lead and turn that one lead into an MQL. Why? Because I couldn't sleep last night and I wanted to download an ebook at 2 a.m. And all of a sudden the next day I get a phone call. Talk about turning me off. You know,
Right.
it's like, I just wanted to see what you had, man. I couldn't sleep. I just wanted to see what was going on. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I actually had a really interesting conversation 2 days ago where somebody wanted to know what revenue was generated from the leads created that month in that month. And I was like, it's going to be a sliver, a fraction, because it's actually mostly from all the leads created from months and weeks before. So that's not possible. And just like, he wanted to turn off one of the programs, and I was like, but we can't measure that's true. Like, Google is going to capture all of the actual revenue. Like, we can't say whether that program is or isn't working. What we can say is whether brand search volume went up, which it did, and whether that, you know, the volume of leads went up in general, which it did. So I'm kind of afraid to turn that program off because I think we're going to see everything then go down. So
well, you know, it's to that point. I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, again, years ago, paid ads. And if you weren't getting 2 to 3 to 1 ratio on a return from that paid ad, then you're wasting your money. I mean, even today, it's like, if you're not getting 1 to 1, you're wasting your money. But again, people, when they are looking and researching, they know what paid ads are. They know it's going to take you to their site. Your site is your store. Your site is a selling tool. They don't want to go there. They want to research certain things. So they might eventually hit that paid ad button, but it could have been their 20th touch, not on their, not for
far
their
down the
website.
funnel.
Yeah, not for their website, but they've been reading and talking and listening. And, you know, I would rather a team that I work with or develop or whatever, I would rather them receive, let's say a sales team, I would rather them receive 20 high intent leads per week as opposed to 100. Just, you know, throwing out these numbers, as opposed to 100 where it's a needle in a haystack, and focus on selling, not focusing on prospecting. Does that make sense?
It does. I want to get into it. We're gonna circle back on this, folks. Don't you worry. I agree that I think if you have enough leads, then they can all they have to do is sell because they are book solid and they're busy.
Exactly.
But if they're not busy and they're not book solid, then I do think there's opportunity.
I'm not saying outbound can't exist. Absolutely, of course. But when they come in inbound, you know, and this was and I hope I got these numbers right. Gartner, I believe, put out a study a couple of years ago where I think it was over 87%, over 80% of C-level and VPs do research all over the web before they get to the site they want to get to. So when they get to that site and they ask for that demo or they want to talk to somebody, they're already, in a sense, 80% done. They've done their work. They've done their research because this is how they like to buy. So when they get to you, it's like, okay, I know all this stuff. Now I just want to hear from you. And hopefully it's a higher intent lead and they're selling. They're not just prospecting.
Absolutely. At that point, for sure.
Yeah.
At that point, for sure.
Right.
And I think the thing that really allows for that to happen is the brand building piece. Oh man, getting off topic here, folks. I'm sorry. We're on a
That's my fault. I can throw somebody off topic.
We're gonna hang here for a second because I think it's interesting. You know, I'm working with a client right now, and they don't have to do prospecting because they're so busy because we've done a really good job. And it took, I'm not going to say it didn't take a while. It took the last 18 months to do it. But now there's so much brand initiative out there that somebody actually drove an hour and a half to sit down with this law firm and said, I'm coming to you because clearly you're the guru about this stuff because you're everywhere.
Right.
So when you get to that point where, you know, you don't the selling sort of just happens naturally, to your point, I think is what you're saying. Like when they show up, they're 80% sure that this is where they're going to go. And they're just showing up for that final 20%. It isn't a selling conversation. It's here's what they come very prepared. I think
Right.
I had this lovely woman on my show called Heidi, and she was like, they come with very clear questions. They know exactly what they're looking for. That there isn't a lot of selling that sort of needs to happen. This is a demo. This is a validation. This is whether they're going to move forward or not. It's pretty cut
Exactly.
and dry at that point.
And
They do a lot of
what's
research.
interesting? The attribution on that, the easiest way to set it up, the most, just simplifying this whole thing. Years ago, we used to ask, how did you hear of us? And over time, that kind of dwindled because we knew, or we thought we knew, how we heard from them. They got to our site, they ran a blog, they, paid ad. But they might have seen a clip on Insta. They might have, listened to the podcast, whatever. So now I try, when I recommend that people create these forms, add one more question in. How did you hear of us again? And let them tick it off. So this way we might say, we're not getting a lot of hits on TikTok. So even though a lot of B2B is on TikTok these days, we're not getting a lot of hits. So let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the ones that we are really getting some responses on.
Yeah. That's a great, Ann Gote, who was on my show earlier this year, was very much all about that form field and getting that on there for sure. And it's really cool when you see like when people respond with like a paragraph.
When they type, in addition, right. I've left like an open field before to see anything else that I missed.
Yeah, it's just really cool.
Yeah. No, I was talking to my friend at dinner the other night, and they told me about you. Things.
Yeah. Or or they went on to ChatGPT, and here was the prompt that they used, and here's how they ended up. Right, like you get so much more when you leave it open ended and not just a drop down of like where you think they came from. Like
that is going to be the goal. That's going to be the goal, to really start getting into ChatGPT, because even if you go on, was it Gemini on Google? If you go on to Google, Gemini's what happens? Great. The days of front page, and when I saw somebody sent me a thing the other day on LinkedIn, an advertising agency or something, and it said, we're going to get you first page on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, on Google. And I was like, is this 19? Not 19. Sorry, that's bad. Is this 2015? Those days are gone. Those days are done. The majority of that page is all, it's all AI.
I will say as an SEO company and our expertise in POV on that is that while the first page isn't important, or being number one or whatever isn't necessarily quote unquote important, the same fundamentals of getting into those LLMs still apply.
Right.
So being number, in the top 3 for your primary keywords should be a good indicator of whether you're going to show up in those LLMs or not, though.
And that's something I'm still studying to see how that works. And that's because SEO is still critical. SEO, especially for your site, blogs, you want to get more new content in there, but it really is more so for content. It's I'm sure you've seen this also. You can write the best blog in the world, shorter, longer, whatever. But what's the bounce rate? Typical 80, 90%. Yeah. No one will sit there and read that blog. Videos.
Or they will, and they got what they wanted and they leave. They're not going elsewhere.
Right. Exactly. The goal years ago was get them on the blog, use internal links, get them to another blog, get them to, call to action or something. But that's not the case anymore. And of course, the comments at the end of the blog, when was the last time you saw those?
Oh, haven't done comments in a long time.
Right. And they were usually bots anyway that wound up nailing you after a while. Right. But now, again, take those blogs, take those articles, put them on LinkedIn. Then you'll hopefully see content and people responding that not just you're going to see, but other people are going to see.
Yeah, the syndication piece is definitely huge, and the mentions across the web. PR. If you're a PR firm, you're in your heyday, because getting into LLMs, it's important to be mentioned across the web in a multitude of ways, in a positive, reinforced way too. And so, PR firms are definitely where we're sending when people talk about link building and getting into LLMs. It's like you need to do all the technical SEO best practices, and that's where we sit. And you need to go get a really good PR firm who can make sure that you're being mentioned throughout. So yes, to all this. All right, Scott, let's get into some of these questions I have around
Shoot.
leadership and career insight, strategy, demand generation, AI, all the things. Here we go. You've spent over 20 years leading marketing in SaaS. What's changed most and what hasn't?
Good question. I think what's changed most, initially when I first got into this, and this is around 2009, I believe. So I guess it's not really 20 years yet. I've been in marketing since going back to college, and my previous career, I was still very active in marketing, but marketing has changed. Actually, a guy did a podcast with last week. He was talking about, he pulled out his old marketing book from college and how just none of it applies. It's just nothing at all. So fast forwarding, what has changed over demand? Well, HubSpot was my go-to. That's how I started to learn. There were no training, there were no classes back around 2009 or 2008. It was what was out there. And HubSpot was putting out so much collateral. I mean, webinars and content. And that's how most people learned. And that's when I started to I became a reseller for HubSpot. And they're the ones that really came out with the term inbound marketing, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified lead.
They drove so much of that.
I want to say ambassador, but influencer. What's the other word I'm missing? I forget. But just speaking out on behalf of your company because they're happy. Yeah, on behalf of your company. So that is the same concept, but MQLs these days. I mean, I'm on the so tired of MQL bandwagon. It's because companies are just saying, like I mentioned earlier, oh, here's your lead. That's an MQL. Not so much, not so much. It may make your MQLs look good to somebody else, but what's the bottom line? Revenue. That's all it really comes down to. So get them qualified, get them out there, get them to come to you when they are ready. Go to them, let them find you after you go to, after you show them that you're everywhere. That's so as far as what else has changed. Gated content. Another way to get a great lead, gate all those ebooks, gate all those, on-demand webinars, gate everything. Sometimes people just want to see it. They don't want to sit there and, have to, I got to give them my name. And okay, first you could put the email address in and make it a wrong email because it's going to pop up on the screen. We know that. Then we said, okay, well, now we got to send it to them. If they really want it, we got to send it to them. So we need your real email. People don't like that either. They want to be almost like a ghost on your website.
Yeah, I also think tools like 6 Sense and things that help, they've opened that up where you don't need their email address because you'll capture it at some point if you don't already have it.
Right. And ABM, I love ABM. ABM certainly has its place. But I do believe that by doing all these other things that we're talking about will help ABM in the long run. It really will, because now it's going to start pulling those high intent leads, especially when they come to your site or go to other places that you can post on, on the platform.
What drew you toward fractional leadership after a career in executive roles?
I'm sorry, you cut out a sec.
No worries. What drew you toward fractional leadership after a career in executive roles?
It's more that I like to build and help companies build something from nothing. When I see companies doing things that may not be right, I might reach out, they might reach out to me, but it'll help me give them ideas and help, guide them on what they could be doing, what they should be doing. And that fractional could be, I've done simple, just freelance stuff where it could be, hey, can you help train? We have a bunch of new people coming in. Can you help train them? Hey, you've been working with HubSpot now since, 2009. I was a reseller. I was a beta tester when they came out with the CRM. Can you help them with that? Help us get set up with that. So it's allowing me as a marketer to do things with different companies. Why? Because companies look at marketing, in my opinion, in many cases, not all, as a luxury. It's a luxury to them. If they feel the economy is having issues, if they feel the company is having issues, they look at, oh, well, we better come back on that marketing and let our sales team try to sell. That's what got us here, and what happens?
I think it's gotten
people get laid off. I have, you and I caught, I started to network with different people, and you and I can't remember if I reached out to you, you reached out to me initially, but I've been networking and talking to people and talking to a lot of CMOs. And, they said, I could be out of a job tomorrow. That's
Mhm.
I've heard that so many times. Or
Yeah.
we just got back, or it might say that they're still somewhere on LinkedIn, but they haven't taken it down yet or said I'm done because there was a big layoff.
Mhm.
So it's
It's
more
very
of comforting. It's more comforting to me that I can do what I want with certain companies, and sometimes a fractional could turn into a permanent position, and I haven't made
sure.
that decision if I want to stick with that or try it again, because I've been with a couple startups that just didn't work out so well. Really, I go in there just pumped up. I want to get up and be able to keep that passion running and help people. Tough to do that when you're with a company that may be dropping budget that you do need, might be cutting back on your team, might be giving you 2 or 3 jobs, which AI can help with. We can talk about that later. Giving
We
you
will.
2 or 3 jobs than you did before, so you're working 3 times as hard. It's different, and of course, the whole battle between sales and marketing and making sure that everybody's on the same page.
I want to sit in the conversation because I think it's so critical and one that's happening more and more. And I felt this too. I'm a founder of a company. I'm also a marketer at heart. But ironically, one of the things we did not invest in consistently was marketing.
Mhm.
And we've been very dependent on referrals, and that's how we've grown. And we've grown very well from that, but it's
Mhm.
very unpredictable.
And I hear
And
that all the
so,
time. All when
yeah,
people
it's
start to,
so
"Oh, we've
standard.
been in this for
Mhm.
10 years, but we never really had a marketing
Mhm.
department because we've gotten everything off referrals."
Yep.
But
And now that the
now,
market's
yeah,
changed and things are happening, it's
right,
like now we are investing in marketing, but the question is, are we too late?
right,
Right? So
right.
I'm looking at some of these other companies. I just talked to this wonderful gal who started a RevOps company in the UK, and she's only 9 months in, and she's already talking about how to get her marketing up and running. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I had that mindset early on when we started, 15 years ago, because that is exactly what you need to be doing. So hats
Right,
off to her. And I love what you're saying of it's just the validation of that because I'm trying to help founders understand, like, even if it's just a fraction, a small percentage of profit from last year that you can then put into this year just to
right,
start,
right,
right?
right,
Like, and it's untouchable. Like,
right,
create a little moat around it. No matter what happens to the company, you've invested this money into marketing, and that's what it's going to build that runway for you in the future. So
right.
protect it with everything you got.
But, and absolutely, and, to that point also, and this is something that always bothers me, is that if a company is not also investing in customer success,
Mm,
then what's gonna happen? They're walking out the back door. There's even if they decide to stay, there's no chance of, cross-selling or upselling them. And marketing is hopefully doing their job and bringing new business in. So all of a sudden they look at our profits are flat. Marketing isn't doing bupkis, they're not doing anything. So, but yeah, once
such
I
a good
was I
point.
was talking to a company and that working with a company. I think this is one of the ABM things, and I said he contacted me. We were at the kind of one-on-one stage at that point, and he said, "Yeah, back up a little bit, back off with them." I'm like, "Why? What's up? I think we're close to the finish line here, aren't we?" And he said, "Well, they're kind of upset with us right now. Why?" Well, there's like they have like 350 tickets out there that really have kind of gone unanswered, and they're kind of mad. Or you hear they hate us right now. I'm like, and I said, okay, that's not good. You know, that's not good. And yeah,
Yeah, it's customer success is so I mean, I think that's one of the things we did right is we have clients that have been with us for anywhere from 3 to 6 to 8 years
yeah,
where they keep, they'll leave their current company and then they'll go to the next one and bring us on, and we kept friends at the existing one, so we keep them and then we bring
right,
on the next one, and that's why we've been able to do this for so long, because we have an amazing account team, which is basically our customer success, and they truly put, they do a really good job of balancing both protecting the team and making sure there's good like work-life balance and being proactive in communication with the client to
Right.
make sure that they have what they need to be successful. And so, yes, I mean, you have to figure out what that front line is that's going to hold on to that client and meet them where they
Right.
are. And if they can't, even if the ticket's not happening because there's a backlog, that there's open communication around where it is and what's happening with it and when it's going to get done and what's the roadmap and we got you and here's some workarounds in the meantime
Yeah.
is like, yeah,
You know,
half the battle.
I was listening to a podcast the other day. Boy, I forget the name of the podcast, but it's by a company, Refine Labs, which you may or may not have heard of.
Yep, I know. Yep,
You
very
know, okay.
familiar.
And I was listening to Megan
Love
Bowen, who's the
Megan.
CEO. Megan's
She's awesome.
wonderful. Oh my God. And I was listening to Chris Walker over the years, also was the founder. And
That's
you know,
wonderful.
she said, you know, usually companies look at in this direction, shareholders, and I hope I'm correct if she's listening to this, shareholders, shareholders, customers, employees. She flipped it. Employees, customers, shareholders are last.
100%.
That's the bottom line, you know, which
100%.
I heard that and I said, that is a great, the simplest way to put it.
Yep. Same here. People first. We take care of our team and our people.
Yep.
They will then take care of the customers.
Yep.
And then the
hopefully the
customers take care of their
shareholders will be
customers.
happy. They're not always are, but hopefully they will be. Right.
Well, if the numbers are going up to the right, that's all that matters for them.
Exactly.
So
Right.
yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful we could just sit in that for a second. All right. Next question. How do you quickly align so many questions, so little time? How do you quickly align new teams when you're brought in as a fractional CMO or advisor? How do you get that trust so quickly?
That's okay. What I like to do is first of all say that I am here to help you. I am here to not just guide you, but I'm also here to learn from you. You know, I mean, I want to know what you guys are doing. I want to know how you're doing it, why you're doing it, but not in a like I'm trying to judge you. You know, let's hear what's happening there. Let's hear what's going on there. That's, you know, and also just say my door is always open. You know, going back to way before all this stuff. I owned a company. I know you're not in the States anymore, but you were at the time. At the time, it was called Hair Club for Men. Now it's just Hair Club. Men's and now men and women's hair replacement. And you know, I hired a new admin, and the admin, I always said to people, my door is always open. Come in. I want your ideas. I want your thoughts. I want anything. You know, I don't know it all. I don't know it all. So, you know, she was young, just out of school, very shy, and she said, I want to try something. You know, and I said, okay, what? And she said, well, you know, when these customers come in, and I don't remember the specifics. This was a long time ago. And I said, go for it. She's like, just like that? I'm like, just like that. You got to try things. And she's like, you're not scared? I said, well, I said, put it this way. You're not going to hurt me. You're not going to hurt the company. So go for it. If it works, great. And it did. And what I love to do is to give that person the confidence to keep trying and keep going and keep looking at new things and keep testing. And as they grow, listen, if they stay with the company, great. But if they choose to move on, they learn something and they're happy, and you can stay in touch with them, and they love what they learned from you and from the company, and also how the company treated them.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, so good. Yeah. When I joined one of my clients about a year and a half ago, it was the salesperson that I felt like I run over because I said, I'm here for you. Like, I'm here to make your job easier.
Exactly.
So you tell me what you need and what your ideal customer looks like and who's easier to close. And you just tell you and I, like, we're hopping on a call later today because I want to launch a new campaign. And he's like, can we, before you do that, let's talk about the type of customer that shows up for that thing and see if we're actually aligned on this. I was like, let's do it.
Yeah, if that customer profile is not there, then you know,
yeah. Or it's got to be, I'm here to make his job easier. So if he's got a tough sell ahead of him, then what am I doing? Then that's not the right campaign.
Somebody once said, an old boss once said to me, which I loved. It was just a simple statement. She said, How can I make your life easier? I
Mhm.
mean, great open-ended question. I thought, just great open-ended question.
Yep. That's what we're here for as leaders, isn't it? How do we
Yeah.
make people's jobs? I said that as CEO when I stepped in the CEO role 5 years ago. I looked at my team. We were in person in Denver, and I had everybody around the table. And I was my first all hands having stepped in as CEO, and I said, I want you all to know my job is to make your job easier.
Yes, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
my job.
Yep. It's not to sit there and say, I don't like to micromanage. I don't want to tell people what to do and say, do this, do this, do this. That's not my style. I don't like to
Nope.
be micromanaged either.
No.
That's not going to work for me, and I've been, for the most part, I've had some wonderful, wonderful people that I've worked with that have never tried that, or, they respect. You do run into, especially in smaller startups, you get the CEO, or you get the president, or somebody that maybe they dabbled in marketing in the past, but you get this one sentence that I hear it's almost like the same one from all. I'm not a marketer, but and that's it. They want
Yeah.
to throw you idea. And listen, I'll throw all my ideas off of them and see what they like. But you're right, you're not a marketer, so let us do our job. This is what you're paying us
Mhm.
for.
Yep. I found that initially in engagements, people will come to you with all of their ideas and want you to sort of continue to run the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then now and tell you how to do your job.
Mm.
But after building that trust and giving it time, it flips where they
Mm.
show up with ideas or asking the right questions of like, okay, uh, my number is leads. So for my client, as he's the CEO, and he's like, my number is leads and just straight up volume. And your job is quality of making sure that we're working together on this. But like I'm not hitting my number. So what do I got to do? What more do we need to be doing so that I can hit my number? And it's just nice for him to sort of throw the question back into my court. And I
Mhm.
can be like, yeah, I know that's your number and my number is quality. So I got to make sure that your number and my number are working together. So
Mm.
here's what I'm thinking.
Mm.
Right. And then we can go tackle it together. And so I love that he's now showing up with the right questions
Mhm.
versus saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And it's like he wanted to run Facebook ads. And I was like, we could try,
Yeah.
but so it's nice to now like have his trust of that, and it does take time, not gonna
Yes.
lie, but man,
Yes.
it's nice when that flips.
Yes.
How do you balance, you've seen everything from 5K to 1 million ARR contracts. What's the key to building a demand engine that scales across deal sizes?
Hmm. Okay, I'm going to say this, and I'll probably get some pushback on this, but not much.
Huh,
You're dealing with people. You're dealing with a person. I don't care if they're smaller. I don't care if they're larger. If a company's, if a person's at a company and you know their big deal is 5 grand a month, great. But the other person's at is looking for $1 million. It's $1 million deal you're looking for. Now, yes, would it have to go through a lot of different people to get to that level? Absolutely. But you are still dealing with people one to one. You're not dealing with a company. So
mhm.
that's how I look at it. And I love to hear feedback from your audience. I really would on that, what they think.
Yeah, drop some comments, but I would agree that if you have a good foundation
Mhm.
of the best practices, then the scaling piece becomes a heck of a lot easier. And
Mhm.
really, I would say it's the positioning and messaging, right?
Mhm.
If you have that and you have open space in the market that you're able to then take up, like, yeah, then it's just continuously following those best practices over and over again to fill that space.
Right.
Um, yeah. You've in terms of I have so many questions here. I'm trying to be choosy because we're running out of time.
I know.
How do you balance long-term brand building with short-term lead generation pressure?
Uh, when you say lead pressure, like coming from above, saying, we need
Yeah.
leads, we need leads. Okay.
Yep.
I'm very straightforward with that. I'm straightforward whether I'm in a fractional position or consulting or as an employee, saying you got to be realistic about this. Short term, you're going to get a couple, sure, but you got a brand, you got to do all these things, and you better be patient, because you're talking about at least 6 months before something seriously starts to happen. And if you're not, and when agencies say, oh, we're going to rock this out, we're going to kill it, we're going to do this, we're going to that, get you all pumped up, and all of a sudden doesn't happen. And what are they going to say? You lied to me. It's like, well, and then they're backtracking and saying, well, it could take longer. Just be upfront. And if they can do it and they're willing to do it, great. And if they're not, say, then something, I'd rather not take your money.
Slow, smooth, and smooth is fast.
That's it. Yeah.
That's our mantra at MKG. And we always want to try and find quote unquote quick wins or low hanging fruit, right? Mm-hmm. There might be some adjustment that you can make that, like for us, for one of my clients a few years ago, it was their email. They were sitting on a huge CRM. And they had a newsletter, but the newsletter was it was really weird. It was basically a picture. And I was like, this isn't mobile friendly. Nobody can read this. And so we just revamped the newsletter. And now it's like, what are the reasons why leads from yesterday are conversions and revenue today, right?
Or video newsletters are wonderful. They're rare.
Oh,
they're
Chris
rare.
Patton does a great one.
Video is, and I can't say that I've tried it that often, but people love video. People love video. Now, I mentioned before, this is like my second guest podcast thing, and I'm kind of getting used to this whole dynamic. But so many people, I try to post at least 3-4 times a week on LinkedIn. And so many people have said, if you just take that post and, throw it into, ChatGPT or something and get a script, so to speak, a quick whatever, just do a minute on what you wrote. And that will, I'm not sure what they said the number was, but it could be 4 or 5 times the reach that you would have in comments than you would have if you just wrote it down.
I would say too that I haven't experienced that on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has become LinkedIn. I think their algorithm. I don't want to get into that.
We're live. They could cut us off right now. So.
They could. I don't know that they would. I don't know about LinkedIn, but what I will say is the beauty of it is it will be LinkedIn, and I would say, because now that you have clips, it can be anywhere. It can be on LinkedIn. It can be on YouTube. It can be on TikTok, which is something you mentioned earlier, right? Like, so that surround sound that now you can create with video and clips is so easy and so huge. So yes to that.
And also, think about it. What year are we in? 10, 15 years ago. Social media was really just, coming up. And how was I going to put this? I really lost my train of thought. That's terrible. I hate when I do that. I hate when I do that. But you said, the snippets, taking those snippets like we just kind of talked about and putting them in all these different places and, finding out where they're reaching. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Okay. Google. What was the search engine 10, 15 years ago? It was Google. That was it. Yep. That's where everybody went. Well, something, TikTok is a search engine. Instagram is a search engine. LinkedIn is a search engine. They're in all these podcasts in a weird way are search engines. I mean, they're all, all that stuff in there is all optimized so people can find it. So these are all search engines too. It's not just Google anymore.
SparkToro. That's why SparkToro got started, right? Because originally the founder of SparkToro created Moz, which was primarily for Google.
Yeah.
And now he's like, but everything's a search engine. So let's figure out where your mentions are. So it's cross everywhere.
That's right.
I love that. Let's talk about AI for a hot second.
Okay.
Y'all with us still? I have so many comments. Trevor's blowing us up over here. Trevor, we are going to follow up with you afterwards and comment away and keep the conversation going. Don't you worry, because there's some nuggets in there, especially from your sales perspective, which we always appreciate. In terms of AI, Scott, you've integrated AI into multiple workflows. What's one underrated use case every marketing team should explore right now?
I would say metrics, and I would say presentations. People spend so much time on presentations, on spreadsheets, on all these things. AI can make these things so much better and so much easier and so much quicker than AI, in my opinion. First of all, there are so many companies out there that are doing amazing things with AI in all different aspects, not just marketing, in everything. There are also companies out there that feel if they splash, AI on the front of their webpage, that they're part of the game. You get that too. They think if they're using ChatGPT, then that's AI. AI in many cases they're not all ready for prime time yet. If you remember the days, the Saturday Night Live, not ready for prime time players. They're not ready for prime time yet. Not all of them. Some are though, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better.
Yep.
But I
It
also
already has.
without a doubt. But it's a double-edged sword right now, meaning companies, they, again, senior C-level execs, they look, oh wow, look at this AI. We can cut our marketing department in half. How exciting! We can save all this money. Right. And then there's the other company, the other side that said, I'm hesitant on AI. I don't want my people becoming drones. I don't want them, no, we're not touching AI. First of all, if you went into a company like that, in my opinion, run away, because they're not looking at what's up now in the future. But then there's also the middle ground. And that's where I think we should be testing different platforms, seeing what different platforms will do for you.
100%.
Seeing where you can maybe, I talked to a guy the other day who said, we are actively getting involved in AI. And I said, tell me how it's working out for the team. He said, well, everyone, of course, is panicking that, they're going to lose their job. And I am not planning on letting anybody go. I am planning on making adjustments and changes, meaning these people will focus on this and these people will focus on this and so on. But I love that, because, you still need a person behind it. You really do. You need a human touch.
You do. I actually said to my team, because they're talking about a content workflow, which we're totally excited to get out into market early January. And I said, this is awesome. And I love how you've streamlined it and it's going to save you time. But how are you going to use the additional time to make it better?
Right. Exactly.
That doesn't mean we just flip this over and it's done. We could elevate this now. What's that next level of elevation? And they were like, oh yeah, that's such a good point. And then they started riffing on it. It was really cool. So stay tuned on that, folks. We're going to be getting our content engine up and running here shortly, and you're going to be seeing it unfold.
It's fun to learn. I mean, it's fun to learn. It really is. And to do I would do all these things and, all these prompts, and I, get all these platforms to know me and talk like me. But I still, even if, let's say, I needed a content written up, I needed, quick, and I need some, just an email written up or something, just quick. I still go through it, review it, make sure it is me, and then go, or make the changes necessary. It's not like, you don't want to sit there and say, okay, boom, 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 whew, get all these words, post it, no.
Yep.
That's not, I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed. And along those lines, I think you're starting to hit on it, but let's just make sure we double down. How do you prevent AI from creating more noise or inefficiency instead of clarity? I'm a little worried we're going to have what do they call it? A broken internet or a dead internet, right? Where it's just a whole bunch of bots talking to bots.
Well, I was just going to say that, a bot talking to a bot. So let's say, you write an article. I'll use LinkedIn again. You write an article on LinkedIn, and, then all of a sudden someone wants to comment on that article, but they don't want to read the article. So they'll copy it, put it into, chat and say, write a 100-word response on this, da, 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 da. Some people will say that don't use M dashes. That's the fun part of, what's happening right now.
Oh my gosh.
Which is funny.
Still having this conversation.
No, I'm not going to get into it, but something, I've used those, a guy who went for years ago showed me what an M- was and how to do it on my keyboard. And I used it all the time.
Oh, me too.
And now I
Constantly.
feel like, oh, I better take it out. It's
Nope, I'm keeping it in.
yeah.
I
I
wrote
think
this
I
and I
should. I
love the
don't
M
care.
dash.
I always did.
Yep.
So, so to answer your question, I think it's just making sure it's all you. Making sure it's still all you. AI will take you to that next level. It can help better you, and help bring out a better you, as opposed to taking over what you're doing.
It's so true. I think that's I wrote a post about this a long time ago and it didn't get any air, which is fine. But I like to bring it back up because it was so in the moment. I got an ad that was a photo lens, this beautiful, beautiful photo lens from a DSLR, and it was smashed to pieces.
Ooh.
And it was an ad saying that you no longer need this. And I was like, you have missed the point. Because the point of AI is not to say that if you don't have the skill, you can now do this thing. The point of AI is to say, if you already have the skill and the foundation, you can elevate your skill set and go so much further and faster than you ever could before.
Yes.
And I was like, you have just crushed the hearts of your primary audience everywhere. Like, take this down, effective immediately. You were doing yourself no good.
If anybody wants to learn the basics of AI, not just the basics, but what it can potentially do. Oof, I'm going to have to pull up my podcast just so I can see which one it is. Man, it was a great, and this woman it was on the Mel Robbins podcast. I'm not sure if you've heard of her. She's, she really is a great podcaster. And she brought on last week, her name oh boy, I'll have to look it up. You can post it later. She is known I feel so bad. I hope she's not listening. She is like she's been working on AI for years. And she brought up so many things about it and what it is, and some of the things that I've even just mentioned, that we're at the beginning of AI, but she, Mel was asking her questions. Okay, explain this to me. Tell me how this works. Tell my audience how this works. And she was very clear. I mean, she advises government. She advises, major companies, major CEOs. I mean, she really is deep into this, and she'll give you a great, some great ideas, thoughts. I was like, wow, I didn't think I could do that. I forgot about that. Oh my goodness. So now I'm trying new things and testing new things. And this is going to kill me. I'm getting her name because now I feel terrible. Allie, come on, Allie. Not there, of course. I want to say Allie Miller.
Okay. We'll find her.
Yeah, find her.
We'll find her, and we'll make sure that we comment and tag her and all of the things.
I was so impressed. I was just so impressed by what you were saying.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so impressed.
I love that. Yeah. We'll make sure that it's linked in the bottom.
Yeah.
Trevor, thank you for your ideas in terms of how you've been using AI from a low-code perspective to multiple websites and testing all of the things. For me, I've been building Zaps like it's going out of style. I've been automating everything because Zapier was always so scary for me to try and wire all this stuff up. But now that I can just talk to an LLM, it's like game changing.
I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet, but somebody mentioned Zapier to me because Zapier used to be like, the bane of my existence sometimes.
Yeah.
You want to make things easier, but sometimes it's making it more difficult.
No. To wire that up was, I felt the same way. But go check out just start asking. I want this to do this after I do this. And it goes and builds it for you. If it's not working, you get to tell it why. It's not always right. It told me it could do a Bing integration and it can't. I was like, that was a lie. You can't do Bing integration. You made me go down this rabbit hole for so long. I hate you. So it's that like all LLMs.
All this is wonderful until the robots rise up, right? You understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all great until that happens. Yeah.
Indeed. Last question for you, Scott, because clearly we could talk all day,
Forever.
no problem.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so grateful to all those folks who, especially Trevor Van Worden and Christopher Caro, who joined us today. Keep the conversation going in the comments. We will join you there shortly. The last question live here today on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you could give every B2B marketer leader one piece of advice for 2026, what would it be?
Always, well, this isn't just now, always be forward thinking. Always test, always try. Do not be afraid. So many marketing departments, marketing leaders, we talk about best practices, and best practices are important, but they also stick to what used to be what they might consider tried and true, meaning paid ads, ebooks, the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, marketing qualified leads and so on. Maybe because they're getting pressure from above, I don't know, but always be willing to test, always be willing to try. I did something a couple of years ago called a mini webinar, meaning as opposed to, webinars. Webinars are what, 45 minutes long, usually boring. Sign up rate is what, low, bounce rate is high. People don't have time to sit there and, do all this stuff. But I got from a consumer product called Quibi. I think Quibi. It was a consumer product it was an app that was out years ago. It was almost like taking Netflix and combining it into an hour and a half, 10-minute
I remember
episodes.
that one.
Remember that? Was it Quibi? I think it was. Quick Bites.
Something like that, yeah.
Quibi. Quick Bites. They went out of business, but still. But the idea is now you can sit there and say it's a 25 minutes. Sometimes I make it fun, 24-minute webinar, and you have a panel. You get a great show rate because someone's like, oh, I can jump into that. Now you do that over 3 weeks, 25, 25, 25. Now let's say it's on demand, ungated. Someone will see, oh, wow, look at this, and then they see, oh, there was one recorded last week too. Same one, same people. Ah, cute. My dog is lying there. He's not going to jump on me, but he's like a 65-pound pit. They'll see all these things, and it's almost like we'll create that little funnel within a funnel and pull out more leads, and the bounce rate is nominal. It really is. I mean, people will stay on there for 25 minutes. They'll ask a question. They'll, bring up new things, and then we say, okay, we're going to continue this next week. Lead them into next week. Give them a teaser into next week, and it's in a way like a podcast, I guess, but you're obviously interacting with people, and it really does work. It really does work, and people like it.
I love it. We're going to test out. Speaking of episodes, if you liked this one, be sure to go check out my episode with Alyssa Maker from last week on building global demand engines in the AI era. And we are not here next week as it is Thanksgiving in the US, but we will be back the following week where I will hang out with JD Miller, who was on the show last year. He's coming back. He's got a new book out, and we're going to unpack it. So be sure to go check out last week's and join us next time here on Back on Track. If you found this conversation helpful, connect with Scott Wasserman on LinkedIn. You can learn more about his fractional leadership work and mentor programs. And don't forget to follow Back on Track for more stories, marketing leader builders from marketing leaders building smart systems, strong teams, and sustainable growth. Thank y'all. See you next time.
Thank you very much, Carrie.
Thank you, Scott.